all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us resound high as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that our dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. And facing the rising sun of our new day's begun, let us march on till victory is won.
I'm gonna walk over and talk to this gentleman for a minute. Thank you so much for that. Where do you get that powerful voice?
Oh, I got it from God above.
God above. And who's this young man joining us?
This is Phoenix, my son.
That's Phoenix. Can Phoenix blow a little bit?
He can sing a little
He can
bit.
sing.
His mom sing.
His mom sing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the genes.
It's in the genes.
It's in the genes.
He got shorts on right now, but it's in
Well, we really appreciate you sharing the Black National Anthem, particularly what's going on in our world right now. And it's something that our people just really need to know, that there is something behind that song.
Yes.
What made you start learning the Black National Anthem?
The fact that there was that common denominator, that we kind of have lost a lot of faith and hope.
Right.
And it's those lines that are about the faith, you know, that our dark past has taught us. And I look at that line now and go, oh, now I know what that line is about. You know, so I think that right now is they're trying to take, you know, a lot of the faith from us, and we got to learn how to have a lot more faith again.
Right now, what's this young man's name again?
Phoenix.
Phoenix, how you doing? Huh? You doing okay? You good? Give a hand for Aaron.
Aaron.
And Phoenix. Okay.
China or even Russia or any totalitarian country. Maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions.
Give another clap praise for Aaron, the Black National Anthem. And joining me is Dr. Rosa. Now, Dr. Rosa has put together a powerful book, and I'm just going to let her explain why she put this book together and really what it's all about. Please welcome Dr. Rosa.
Thank you, Tony. This is my second time here, so I'm going to enjoy it doubly so than I did the first time, but thank you very much for having me. The book is very important for both personal and professional reasons. The title of the book is Black Leadership in Oregon and the Impact of Racism on Black Leadership.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I think I've been writing the book, or it's been in my heart probably for the last decade or so. And there happened to be a catalyst or a specific reason that really said to me, you got to get the book done, you got to get it published before the 2020 election.
Absolutely.
So actually I'm shooting before 2018.
Well, the timing is right.
I think so.
Sometimes it's about the timing.
Yes.
It's right, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, the title of the book is Black Leadership in the State of Oregon and the Impacts of Racism on Black Leadership. And again, there was a specific motivating factor that caused me to write the book. My observing what I thought was not the support of the Democratic Party, both nationally and in the state of Oregon, to black leaders in the state of Oregon. And I don't think I can express enough or strongly enough the importance of black leadership, not just for the black community,
Right.
but for all Oregonians.
Now, when you say support, are you speaking of black support or support in general?
Support in general
Okay,
from
okay.
the party
From the
itself.
parties, okay.
From the party itself. I want to just very quickly, and I promise this is going to be quick, but I'd like for the audience to have a sense of what the book is about actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 6 chapters are completed, and a 7th chapter, the final chapter, is underway. I decided that I needed a broader perspective. In addition to my own experiences, I'm interviewing 6 black women leaders to get their perspective on leadership in Oregon, and that final chapter is still in process. But I began my work with a research. I did some research for about 6 months, and chapter 1 is entitled "When Portland Banned Blacks, a Defiant History as an All-White State."
Okay.
And that chapter is important because, number one, it gives context to everything else that I'm going to discuss in the book to understand where we are, how we came to the point where we are, and the lingering impacts of setting up an all-white state where blacks were banned from living.
Okay.
A lot of people know this history, but I think it's important to reassess it and to reiterate what the background of Oregon is really like for black citizens. In the second, and also in that first chapter, I go into a discussion on white supremacy. I talk about white supremacy a bit. In the second chapter, I go into the historical roots of the Democratic Party of Oregon, and it took quite a while to dig up some of this data,
Yes.
but I talk about one of our Democratic candidates, one of our Democratic governors, Mr. Walter Pierce. He was a governor in 1922.
In Oregon.
In Oregon.
Was this a black man?
No, this was a white
Okay,
man.
okay.
No, this is the
1922?
history, 1922.
Okay.
And what's important about him is that he was a Ku Klux Klan candidate.
Oh, my
He was
goodness.
supported. He was a white supremacist.
Now I want to ask you a question right there.
Okay.
Now the Ku Klux Klan is now considered the national
White nationalist.
white nationalist.
Yeah.
So I want to draw that parallel so people can understand that.
That is how I define it in the book.
Okay.
Because I do define white nationalism.
So how it goes, the name, the people are the same, but the names just changed.
The name change.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Good analogy.
Okay.
Tony.
Okay.
The third chapter, I go into, I go from the broad context of the state and then the state party. And then in the third chapter, I talk about the alignment. This is very important when we think about what's impacting black leadership in Oregon. In the third chapter, I talk about the alignment of blacks nationally, blacks in general, with the Democratic Party. There's been a close alignment. And it happened with the 1960s Voting Rights Act. And the reason I call it a two-edged sword is because it's led to a lot of the Democratic Party taking the black vote for granted and just assuming that it's going to be there and not dealing with some specific issues of the black community. In the fourth chapter, I go into, I come right down to Oregon, and I talk about the difficulty of some of our black leaders in their positions, and why there seems to be a lack of support for our legislative agenda and other issues, financial issues that concern us.
Touch on that a little bit, why there is a problem, so people can kind of get a little glimpse of where you're going and what that means.
Well, you know,
without giving the book away, but I just want to give them a taste.
No, I want to give them a lot of the book because
Okay.
I want them to buy it.
Right.
But part of the problem that my research has shown is that it's not real complicated. It's about holding on to power, grabbing power, and holding on to it, and not being willing to loosen up on it in many respects. And there's money. It takes a lot of money to run for political office. And sometimes there's a difficulty with black candidates in terms of how they raise enough money to actually be competitive. It depends on the race, but most races now have become extremely expensive. I was at a Saturday morning constituent coffee just yesterday with Senator Lou Frederick. And one of the things we learned is that there was a legislative race involving one of our black candidates. And both of those candidates literally spent $1 million to run that race.
Right.
And so when we began to, when it involves that kind of money and that kind of spending, there's only a limited number of people that can even become involved in these races. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be good leaders. It just means that there's a barrier to being able to run for an office.
Now, let me ask you a question. If people just get out and vote and canvass the community, knock on doors, would they have to spend all that money?
Yes.
They still would have to spend that money?
They still have to spend a lot of money to get elected
Okay.
in Oregon. That's what my research shows.
Okay.
I'm sure if you interviewed other folks, you're going to get a different opinion, but that is what I find to be the case.
Okay.
In the 5th chapter, I go specifically into black women in leadership positions, and I discuss the fact that we are underrepresented, highly underrepresented in elective office, and some of the problems that we're encountering with reasons for why we don't see more black women in elective office in the state of Oregon.
A couple of reasons why.
Again, running a campaign, getting the appropriate community support, getting the appropriate support from the state Democratic Party.
Okay.
Those are many of the reasons.
Many of the reasons, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I spend one chapter talking about how racism is killing black women.
Touch on that a little bit. We got a little bit, about a couple more minutes, but I want you to touch on that, please.
Okay. I did looked at black women and the incidence of heart attacks, diabetes,
My goodness.
cancer, breast cancer in particular. And a lot of this, the clinical research says that a lot of it simply has to do with stress. And the stress is it's socioeconomic factors. There are many factors that go into why black women are under stress, and that at the root cause of this is actually racism. That we're dealing with racism from the time we get up in the morning, when we go out to begin our day, when we go to our jobs, when we go into our communities. We face racism, and it's having a devastating impact on the health of black women.
Now, how do people get the book? When is it coming out? Give us a little information.
Okay, Amazon is going to be doing the publishing.
Okay.
I have a commitment to have a polished manuscript with annotations, cover design, everything by the 1st of September, and we're shooting for 90 days after that to actually have the book on the market.
And the name of the book?
Black Leadership in the State of Oregon, The Impacts of Racism.
Dr. Rosa, go out and get that book on together. Get that book on together.
Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read.
Right now joining me is a panel that's representing the AmeriKan Initiative. And I'm going to let them introduce who they are, why this program is important to us, and what's going to be happening. Please introduce Dr. Owusu.
I'm Dr. Angela Owusu-Ansah.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I currently work at Concordia University. I teach in the doctoral program. My area is in data analysis, data collection, and any kind of studies or research. And so that's my role in the group.
Okay. And from my understanding, you got a team that's going to be working with you.
That's
Let's
right.
talk a little bit about this team, because you got a couple of them here, but I want you to talk a little bit about
the team. Yes. Well, Professor Hall put the team together.
Okay. Please welcome Professor Hall. Okay.
So he looked at the requirements for the initiative, and he kind of handpicked myself, Dr. Harris, and himself in a way that we have him who has the legal background and the strategic pieces. I do the data and the running and the analysis, and between him and Laura, they are in the community, they understand the community, and they have the access to all the different groups that we need to be working with.
Okay. You seem very humble, Doctor. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Joining me is Miss Cindy Fletcher. Now, Miss Cindy Fletcher, please tell us what organization you represent. I know Susan B. Komen, but you kind of spread out a little bit. You got a couple of states going on, so please explain that to us.
So I am Director of Programs at Susan G. Komen, Oregon and Southwest Washington. We cover all 36 counties in Oregon and 3 counties in Southwest Washington.
Please welcome Miss
Cindy.
Cindy. I didn't even take that, but I want to get your clap praise in there. And you represent Southwest
Washington and all of Oregon.
Okay, I got a question. What started Susan G. Komen to initiate this project?
To initiate this project, so the disparities in women of color and between women of color and white women's in breast cancer mortality and late stage diagnosis are incredible, and they are the highest in the African American community. So even though on a national level screening rates, breast cancer screening rates are about the same between African American and white women, African American women tend to die at a rate of about 40% more than a white woman.
Okay.
And so for us, we have a fantastic program that does education and outreach in the faith-based community called Worship in Pink.
Okay.
And we've been out in the community talking about breast cancer, and now we're looking at how do we make a difference? Where can we have an impact and try and change these numbers? And so the first step of that is collecting the data. And so this is where this fantastic group comes in. So we want to know where people are living, because there's been displacement in the Portland metro area, where people are living, what are their breast cancer screening habits, and what barriers are they facing in getting a mammogram, understanding the results of their mammogram, getting diagnostic testing if they need additional testing, and if necessary, what are the barriers to getting treatment to breast cancer. So that is what this group is going to be looking into.
Okay, okay. And next too is Dr. Bohr. Please give Dr. Bohr Harris. I always call her doctor, but she said, okay. Yes.
Again, I'm Bohr Harris, and I'm excited about being on this team. When Komen, Susan G. Komen and Cindy sent out the information about the project, I looked at it and go, oh, that looks great. Looks like something that we could do.
Okay.
It was exciting, and then we researched it and reviewed it, and we decided, hey, we can work together and get this done. First of all, I'm committed to the African American community. I'm a part of the African American community, and with gentrification that's taken place, we can't, about 10 years ago, we could look at several zip codes and say, this is where the African American women in Portland metro area are. But now today, we have to look at, we are going out and reaching out to where the women are. It could be in Gresham, Troutdale, Southwest, Northeast, all over. So that's what we do. We've been going out to different organizations, giving our presentations, explaining what the African American Initiative is all about, getting women involved. Most importantly, being able to conversation. So we're not just getting stats and so forth. The conversational piece, as Cindy had shared, is so important. So, and one other thing as I close out, as far as diversity. I'm a diversity consultant, so one of my focuses is also on diversity. So we're going to make sure that everyone that we reach, each person that we serve, we treat everyone with respect, regardless to who they are, everyone from all walks of life, because everyone deserves to have a healthy life.
And part of the team is Dr. Calvin.
Professor Hall.
Professor,
Yes.
Professor, I
Yes.
like that. Now you're working on your doctorate, right?
That's correct. I'm a doctorate candidate at Concordia University.
He said, I'm a doctorate candidate. We appreciate that. Give him praise, though. Yeah. Okay. So what are you bringing to the team?
Thank you.
Professor Calvin.
Before I do that, I'd like to salute you, Mr. Brown, for your show and ensuring that the city of Portland is aware of the paramount issues that maybe 2, 6, and 8 may not report. So I thank you for your leadership and your commitment to access and information.
I received it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And then secondly, I'd like to salute these brilliant 2 people that I'm blessed to have the opportunity to work with, Ms. Harris and Dr. Answa I always get that incorrect, Doctor, so
That's
please
okay.
forgive me. Please forgive me. They are outstanding leaders and brilliant, and it's really a blessing to be around these two and working on this critical project. I got passionate, and Cindy, the leader, ensuring that we're all here as well. I got passionate about the issue of cancer because my family was devastated. I lost my grandmother, a number of aunts, and prostate cancer. Out of 10 uncles, I've lost 7. And so one of the things that I committed to, as I looked my grandmother in her eyes, I said, we're going to have cancer on the run. And we may not be able to get it in my lifetime, but I will contribute one piece of the puzzle to try to create a roadmap to try to help out. And whether that's through research, and in my capacity, that's through research and through this project. And so I saw the opportunity and had a dialogue with these outstanding leaders, and they believed that we could make a contribution to addressing this issue. And so therefore, we are here because of them, and we're here because they see that it's disproportionately impacting African American women, and that we can get cancer on the run and ultimately eliminate it. And so that's the context by which I'm here today. And I want to again throw out a salute to Cindy for believing in us and believing that we can contribute locally and contribute to the larger battle nationally.
Now, I got a question for each one of you, or whoever wants to chime in on it. What is going to be the obstacle that you think that might be in the way of getting this information out and getting people to come in and be part of this data? Because when they hear data, people are like, oh, wait a minute, you're getting personal now. So how are you addressing that?
Well, my feedback on that is, historically, black women have been taught to hush, don't talk about it.
Okay.
So over the years, we have been so silent about things because this has been a part of our culture. So one of the key factors is getting people comfortable to talk about it. And that's why we are so passionate when we meet people. We are caring, we believe in this project, and we're going to express that to each of them. So once we establish and build this relationship, then they're going to be comfortable to have a great dialogue with us. Plus, we do share with them the ISB and that the HIPAA information. So we are sharing all of that information with them. This is not a human subject project. So those things are made clear, which will not create any issues or concerns.
Okay, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, it's so important to get help early, early detection. And we believe as a team, and Cindy agrees with us, that one of the first things we need to do is to build some trust, build relationships. Okay. We're a very collectivistic group. Folks of color, we aggregate, we believe in what the group's goals. And so one way we're going to do this is something called snowballing, okay, where we will reach one person and ask that person to reach another. We're also going to try and touch all the different areas where many African Americans would be. So we're going to move not only to the churches, but to community centers. It wouldn't be unusual to have a young man playing basketball there who knows an aunt or his mom. So we're reaching out in different ways, okay, different from what's been done in the past. They say if you do the same thing over and over again and you're not getting a result, you really should try and do something different.
That's insanity.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that. So our goal is to try a variety of innovative ways, yeah, to reach and to continuously build trust and find opportunities to actually, and in some ways, in some points, see if we can actually bring the mammogram to the community as opposed to asking the community to go where the mammogram is being conducted.
Absolutely. Now, Ms. Cindy, is this just in Oregon, or is it going to be in other states?
So what we are doing is here in Oregon, well, Portland metro area. I'm sure Vancouver will play a role in this. So what we are doing here is local. On the national level, a similar type of initiative is happening by Susan G. Komen as a national organization, which is based out of Dallas. They are working in the 10 cities that have the highest populations of African Americans and the greatest disparities between black and white women in mortality and late stage diagnosis. And they're working, it's a $27 million project that they're working on with the Fund 2 Foundation. Okay. And they have a fantastic ad council campaign that actually folks should check out. It's called Know Your Girls. KnowYourGirls.org. And it is a great, there are public service announcements, there's all kinds of information on breast cancer in the African American community and from the lens of the African American community.
Okay, I don't want to seem ignorant or funny here. Know Your Girls, is that the breast?
That's the breast.
Okay. I just want to be sure. I thought they was kind of talking about that. Okay. Okay. Brother Calvin, you had a comment on that? Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr.
Not
Brown.
on that girls, but
yeah, I got the context.
Okay.
I just wanted to speak to your statement about concerns of the community on studies, because often folks with power suggest that that conspiracy positions are a reflection of folks' own psychological concerns. But John Hope Franklin stated that if you don't know your history, then it's going to repeat itself. So I want to affirm those folks who have concerns about someone getting their information and wondering what they're doing with it, because there was a study called the Tuskegee study, of which African American men were inflicted by it with a disease, and the principal investigators and doctors justified that process. And as a matter of fact, in their studies and methods, they argued using a number of different methods to justify this unjust practice. And what was significant was that it was funded through the government. So we want folks to know, historically, there have been some things that have been unfair, and that we are aware of that, and that's why there are structures within the Komen organization, such as what's called the IRB, to ensure that folks know that their participation, civil liberties and civil rights will be not violated and will be honored. And so we want folks to know that, yesterday is important to remember, but today is safeguarded with the team and with this wonderful organization and effort. So organizations like and efforts, movements like Me Too and Black Lives Matter are relative, and there are issues going on. So I just want to affirm those folks who have concerns and let them know that we have safeguarded as a team those concerns.
Okay, now I'm getting the wrap-up sign. How do people get in touch with you and find out when is this starting? Is there a start date that is starting, Dr. Wusu?
Yes, we've actually started. This is one of them.
Straight talk? That's what I'm talking about.
So we're trying to get the message out to as many people as possible.
Okay.
And then we're also going to reach out ourselves. We're going to go to churches. We're going to go to community centers. And at these meetings, we will leave information, trying to keep it private as well. So when we get there, we'll invite those who might have that situation, and then move on with a more private follow-up in terms of how to get them to Komen into the process and the whole the whole piece from beginning to end.
Okay, Sydney, last little comment on.
So anytime, so KomenOregon.org is our website, and as we develop materials, or as this group develops materials, anything that is appropriate, so information about the initiative will go on our website. So KomenOregon.org is a great place.
Ms. Bohr?
Well, I'm excited about the project, and I just want to give a shout out to Andrew Asado, who's director of Komen, Oregon, Southwest Washington.
Shout out to Dr. Hill, Professor Hill.
I would just like to end with a quote and just thank this great team that sits left to me. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. And so we are small, but we're part of a larger battle taking this on. Thank you, sir.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.